back. And there's some questions asked every now and again, but I really want to let you guys know what we do over there and how impactful it is to the people that are there. It's really fun to be there because here in America, you wait for moments to help people. We have busy lives and we have very expensive things, and our lives are full of all kinds of things that go on and on. And so you don't get too many opportunities to really impact people's lives. And so here, when you go, that's all you do. And so it's really fun being there because you feel so effective in your life and you feel so effective in what you're doing. But you also like to come home. And so what they kind of don't understand there is how hard we work and how busy we get and how hard we try to get there to be an impact to them. And so our purpose is compassion, okay, to give those people purpose and to empower them. And the empowerment part is kind of where we've struggled. And really, this was the first time we've had the fruits of that, and I'll explain as we go. Go ahead and go to the next one, Madison. Chuck, you're interrupting my daughter. Okay, so we tried to figure out how to break this down. We have to keep track of these things for the government. We are a 5013C, Missions for Orphans, but we do have to follow the rules just like anybody else does. And so we've kind of broken these down into some things that we do, and it'll probably change as we go, but salaries, we have salaries. We employ over 40 people, and this is the largest part of our budget. Includes farms, workers, pastors, teachers, administration, building and construction. That's pretty much anything we build, walls, churches, widows' homes. We have a widows feeding program. I counted them when we were there. We have 663 based over 6 groups that we feed. We have orphan boys that we send to school and their fees, and then we have other fees. That's my mom has been sending all the village kids to school, which is a huge undertaking, and what we spent the majority of our time doing was getting everybody backpacks and all these other things. And then we have 3 vehicles that we have on site, 2 trucks and a van. Most of them are used to transport people around. Sunday, when you're bringing everybody to church, Edward does a lot of driving around. Go ahead and go to the next one. So I hope everybody can see these numbers. I haven't been able to put in July yet. I looked at July. It's roughly around 900,000 shillings. So if you compare shillings, I just broke this down into 100 to 1. So you have 100 of those shillings is $1 of ours. So if you have $100, it's 10,000 shillings. So you add 2 zeros to whatever number you have. It's a lot different now. I think it's 140 to 1 right now is our last rate. So we actually get to go farther with our money because one of our dollars is now 140 of theirs instead of 100. So far this year, we've put in like 7.5, 7.6 million shillings to them. And $70,000 for half of a year. So a full year, that's $140,000 that people have donated into this ministry, which is just absolutely tremendous. Next one. And you can see it's kind of broken down into the ways I told you the contribution. The thing that we have is salaries are almost 70% of what we do. And so the thing we have to kind of talk about is, are we missions for workers? Or are we missions for orphans and widows? And so I don't mind employing people because people get a job and they get a consistent pay that then allows them to have a functioning life. But then we have people that don't take advantage of the opportunity given. And they squander it and they cheat and they lie, just like anywhere else in the world. And so I would rather take that salary and feed more widows. Take that salary and have another 1 or 2 boys in our orphanage. And so you can see almost 70% of salaries, building construction is about 4%, widows is about 7%, that's our feeding program, just because there's so many. And that doesn't even cover all that are there. School fees, 5%, rent and utilities is almost 7%, and then vehicle maintenance, we had some pretty large expenses. Actually, we have 3 trucks and 1 van. We put a brand new engine in one of the trucks that's used for the construction guys to do stuff throughout the surrounding villages. Next one. So again, we have 25 guards, workers. Those are guards that are on property, guards that are on the house. If anyone ever would like to come, we have a very beautiful house there. It's an old British house. We have guards throughout the day and overnight, so it's a very safe place. It's basically a compound and lots of security, lots of locks and steel doors, and so it's a very safe place, plus we have guards. We have 5 administration, that includes most of our supervisors. We have a seamstress school, and the lady that runs the seamstress school, she's on salary. We have in order to operate over there, you have to have an NGO, a non-governmental organization that then covers you in doing things. So we actually have 2 different ones. We have an NGO that covers the church, and then we have a CBO, which then covers all the work that we do, the salaries, the building widows' homes, the feeding programs, all those things. We employ 5 pastors. We have 1, 2, I think it's 4 baby churches that my dad built, and then we have 5 teachers. This includes some inside of Kipsina Katali where we're at, and then outside in Pokat. Next one. These are all the salaries of the employees. So roughly it translates to about $4,500 a month that we have to send every month in order to keep everyone employed. And so it's a big undertaking, and God has really provided. People are donating, which is wonderful, and we thank you. And we have been able to maintain this for almost 10 years. So God has really supplied, and it's just a wonderful thing that we get to do all these things. Next one. And so our salaries are broken down: workers, guards, pastors, teachers, boys' home, administration. Most of it's the workers, about $2,200 a month. Then you have the administration people, and you have pastors and teachers. Next one. And so these are the kind of programs we have. We break it down into humanitarian, and we break it down into outreach. Humanitarian is stuff that we do around the local area, the local village, the farm, helping the widows. And then we have outreach, which is where we go out into other villages and do ministry, medical missions, things like that. That's considered outreach. So boys' home, farming, these are kind of some of the things that are a part of either humanitarian or outreach. Widows construction, that's feeding and housing, and then outreach outside of Kipsina. Medical, missions, financial services, and then ministry as well. Next one. Go back to that one, Madison. So those are all the boys. So right now we have 15, and the 4 that are in the middle, they're no longer in the school. They've graduated, but the other ones are still there, and then we have some new ones that came in. But we have 15 orphan boys that we help. Next one. One of the programs that we have is building widows' homes. So you can see the home on the left is the actual home that they live in. It's basically just mud, sticks, and a metal roof. They have 1 door. Most of them don't have windows and things like that. So it's pretty dark in there. And they have to cook in there, or they have to cook outside. Now, they can cook outside when it's not raining, but once it rains, they have to go inside. A lot of them have tuberculosis because they are inhaling all that smoke while they're cooking. And so you have a lot of respiratory diseases there. You also have high diabetes rate because they pretty much eat only carbs. They don't have a lot of protein in their diet, and so they eat mostly carbs. So when we do a new home, we give them an actual pitched roof, and we kind of expand it more for them. And they get a new metal roof, and then they get new sides, new thatch. That's called thatch. Next one. So you can see us working there, new metal roof. They're adding mud to the walls, and then the next one. And then we plaster it. So they get something that lasts for a lot longer, because once it rains, it splashes, and then the mud begins to deteriorate on the walls. And so the plaster keeps it for many years. We have to go back sometimes and do some replastering, but it really helps them. Plus they get windows, and they get a door on there. Not usually, they just hang like a curtain or something like that to block, so they actually get a door as well. And so it's really a blessing to them. And then they get to keep both houses if we have enough area to build, so they can cook in their old house and they don't have to ruin the new one. Okay, next one. This is another thing we do. We make bricks. We do it for construction. Right now we are constructing a wall that's around the whole perimeter of the property. That's the machine. They do one brick at a time. So it's literally, they take the mud or the soil that's around, they dig it all out there, they add water to it, they compress it, and then they stack it like that. Okay, let them dry out, and then go to the next one. And this is them actually cooking the bricks. So they stack them. I don't even know how they do this. This is tremendous how they have this ability. But they stack and they leave those little openings at the bottom, and they shove firewood in there. And they burn it, and then you can see the guy right there, he's closing those holes to make only a small peephole towards the end, which allows airflow and then keeps the coals going, keeps the fire hot. Next one. And so what we do with it is we actually build on property, and we build outside as well. So this is the church my dad built on the left. Beautiful church. You can see the door on the left. The one on the right, that's the entry right there. That's that same door. So when you walk in, it's just really a beautiful church that he built for them. Next one. So this is a house that's on the property. We had a guy staying there that was teaching welding to the boys. And so he stays on the left side, and then the right side's used when we do conferences for men, for pastors, and for women to come in and be taught. They get to stay in housing, and they get fed every day. And so what we found out, that it's cheaper to bring them in than it is to go to where they live. When we go to where they live, it's really expensive because you end up feeding everyone that's there. And we try to do both, but we try to sometimes bring them in so that we can save some money on that. Next one. This is another church. This is the Wayetta church that my dad built. Next one. This is the Bawai church that he built. Next one. This is the boys' home. This is the boys' dormitory. This is where they stay every night. It used to just be a metal roof, and so they bricked it in. Next one. And this is the perimeter wall that we're doing around the whole property. It's 7 acres. And it's a very big project, and so this is what we're starting now. Is the problem that we had was people were coming in and out of the property. There was theft. We didn't know who was who. And so now a lot of protocols are coming down from the government, and they're telling us that we have to have, if we have an orphanage, there are rules that we have to follow. We have to have safety protocol. We have to have all these things in place. And so now, since we're actually secure, there's a lock on the gate. The young boys aren't allowed to open the gate. Has to be an adult. And so there's all these things that, what happened when we found out when we went last time is there was a guy in Kenya that basically made all these people starve to death. He said that if they were going to fast until they died, they would meet Jesus. And so over 500 people died listening to this guy. And apparently he fasted last. So he's still alive, but he's in prison now. So he took all the money from what they were doing. And so the government got really upset, and they said that they want to be involved in every church now, which is now a problem. Because once the government gets involved, then it's just more taxes, fees, paperwork that we have to do just to preach the gospel. And so now that's kind of a process that we're going through, is to try to figure out all those things that need to be done in order to where we operate the right way when we're there. Next one. So fencing on 7 acres of property, it's 1,600 linear feet of fence over 6 feet high. So it's a very, very big project. And what's nice is we already paid 2 construction workers. We pay some more guys to come in and help make brick. And so we're getting it at very low cost because all of the materials, all the brick we make, but we do have to buy cement, all the metal that goes in the columns and everything. So next one. This is the fence that's on the bottom half of the property. You can see the slope. It's so steep when it comes down. So everything kind of sits on a hill. You're at the very top, and then the farm goes downhill to the bottom where there's like a small, they call it a river, but it's actually a small stream. And so in order to make that slope, we just created these posts and then ran chain link wire through them, or wire through the holes and then chain link on them. And now we're planting plants that have thorns so people can't get in. They can, but it'll be a pain and very painful. So that's the whole bottom of the property. That's about 1,200 linear feet. Next one. So we also have farming for the boys. The object of the farming on property is to be able to take what we farm and feed the boys and not have the extra costs of buying vegetables all the time. We already have farm workers that we're paying, and so we might as well have them work for us to create food for the people that are on site. And so the problem that we had the last time I went, not this time, was that they were stealing the vegetables. So I had to explain to them, you're stealing from orphans and widows. So you need to understand what the scriptures say. And you need to understand one of the easiest commandments that we get is thou shalt not steal. And so this is supposed to support widows. If widows are in need, they need vegetables, they need something to eat, they can come to the property. What's really cool when you're there is you'll see Edward. Edward's just handing out money left and right. He's the one who runs our property. And he just gives 150 shillings to this person, 200 to that person. And what they do is they take the tithes and offerings from the church, and then that money is distributed out to people in need, which is exactly how it's supposed to be done. Next one. This is the tea. This is the first thing that we've had that's actually been profitable. They can't steal the tea. There's nothing they're going to do with it. They're not going to take it to their house, dry it, chop it all up, and then use it in their tea. They'll just go buy tea. And so this has been something that has, over the last few years, done really well. It's, I think the last 5 years, we've got over 300,000 shillings. And so when I was there, we transferred that money into the account so we could start using it for the needs of the community and the needs on the farm. So these are the young plants on the left, and then as you can see, the mature plants. We are actually at a point where they're producing a very, very good amount of tea, roughly around like 9,000 shillings, which is only like $90. But that's every week. Amen? Next one. We also have an outreach to the prison. This is the prison ministry. You can see all those guys. This is really fun. I know it doesn't sound fun, but this is really fun. These guys are excited about the gospel being preached to them. And so when you're there, they just really make you feel good about who you are and what you do. And they just embrace you. They remember you. They remember your name. What was good is when I went there last time, I didn't recognize a lot of faces, good and bad. Most of the guys left, but then there's new ones obviously coming in. Next one. We also do the women's ministry. And when we go to these, one thing that we try to do when we're there is bring them items. So we brought them soap. As you can see, I'm holding some lady products there. We try to give the women lady products, and we try to give them soap and toilet paper. The men, we just give soap and toilet paper. They don't have toilet paper in the prison. It's not supplied to them. We found out they were using rocks. So I asked the guy, the main guard, I said, how long does a roll of toilet paper last? And they said, as much as the user intends. So it's basically however many pieces of paper you want to use will determine how long your role lasts. And so there's not many more people coming in and bringing them these things. So we're one of the few that come and supply them with things. So they're very grateful for those things. Next. That's us, toilet paper on the left, soap, and then when we were there one time, we brought them all bread. Each prisoner got 2 slices of bread, which they never get. They get cabbage and ugali. Ugali is just basically like cream of wheat. Everybody know what cream of wheat is? Pretty much the same thing, but in a giant blob. You know when you leave cream of wheat overnight and it becomes like a gelatinous blob? That's what they eat. And so the most of their food is based on ugali because it fills their stomach. Next. This is who we work with. His name is Richard. When we were there, these 2 prisoners that were there, you got the guy in the middle. He's kind of the deacon, preacher guy that we deal with. He's a new guy. The other guy that we worked with got promoted. But when we were there, it was really God, because we were meeting with Richard and we were supposed to go from the women's prison to the men's prison immediately afterwards, but there was a 2-hour break because there was a shift change. So we went out to lunch with Richard and we were talking to him, and he told us about these 2 people. And these 2 people, what had happened was there's a man that stole a bunch of goods, and he took those goods and he was selling them. And these 2 people bought them thinking that they were just getting a good price, not that they were stolen. Well, when the police did the investigation, they found them with the stolen goods. So even being innocent, they threw them in prison because they want money. So to get each person out was 3,000 shillings. You divide that by 100 and it's $30. Their family couldn't raise the money for them because 3,000 shillings is too much. $30 is too much money. And so they sat in prison for months. So God, being who God is, we had time to spend with Richard, and all of us put in 2,000 shillings each. Me, that's Manny Vallejos, you know him, then Albert. And those are them 2 being freed. So that was really something cool that we were able to do while we were there. Next one. So we have the Widows Feeding Program. We give them sugar, beans, and maize every 6 weeks. Not always sugar, but mostly maize and beans. So it's 2 cups of beans, like a coffee cup, 2 cups of beans, and a kilo, which is 2.2 pounds of maize. And that's every 6 weeks. So it's not a whole lot. They appreciate it very much because it's anything they get can help them. But we would really love to increase this, because this is the greatest thing that you can do, is take care of widows and orphans. And so I would rather feed them more than deal with people that are stealing from MFO. So this is the Kauai and Bawai group. Go ahead. And so we feed over 600 widows from 6 different groups. That was Bawai and Kauai. This is Waiata and Munyaka. And you can see how many people line up to get food every single time we come. Next one. This is Arba Junction. This is just another, we basically find a central place where they can meet, and then they all come and they get what we have for them. Next one. Those who can't come to the central place that we meet, either one, they're crippled, they can't walk. We have 2 ladies now. We had one before. Her name was Mary. We call her Shopkeeper Mary. She was a loan shark for a while. But she takes care of the widows. So she goes to the ones that are sick, and she brings them the food for them so that they can have, since they can't make it. Next one. So this is just another group of ladies who don't have the strength to come, or they're crippled. And so that's Mary on the left in the yellow. And she goes, and so we have another lady that we're now going to employ. Her name's Margaret. She is going to help Mary. She's sick, so she can't really work on the farm anymore. She's getting older, and it's too hard for her. So we talked about putting her with Mary. 2 can carry more than 1, and so she's going to now help with the ministry to the widows. Next. This was a little boy that we found and a little girl that we found while we were feeding those other widows. I found out last time that the mom refused our help. I told them that we need to go back and try to get her to allow us to get the boy surgery. It's about a $300 surgery. He's got a hernia on the left, and all the girl needs is just some medication that we can give her for parasites. Easy fixes, but they just can't afford these things there. Next. This is our jigger missions. These are sand fleas. They get inside of people's feet because they don't wear shoes and because they don't have soap. If they were just able to wash their feet, they could get rid of the sand fleas. So this is an older gentleman on the right. You can see some of them get really, really bad to where the point where they eat all of their nails, all of their skin, and they don't really have any toenails left. The little girl, she was young. That was really heartbreaking. She cried the whole time that we did it on her. But when we came back this time, she was like, I don't have any jiggers. And she said it as, yes, I don't have any jiggers, but she also said it as, please don't touch me again. So that was the first thing that she said when we got there, was I don't have any jigger. Next one. This is other things that we do. There's street boys there. Whenever I'm there or whenever anybody's there, we always try to carry bread inside of the truck because the street boys, they know the truck, they know who you are, and so they know you're a Mzungu, which is just a European white man or someone that doesn't live there, and so they know if they ask, they might get something. So we carry big loaves of bread. And one thing that Manny, which was with us last time, he said his old friend had a peanut butter and jelly ministry for the homeless, where he would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every morning or whenever he was going to go out, and he would feed them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I thought that was a great idea, that we could actually take those two slices, give them a little jelly and give them a little peanut butter, and so when you hand them out, they actually get something that has some protein and some carbohydrates in them that they can actually get some energy from. So that's one of the things we want to move on to next. So while we were there, go back one. The lady on the right there, you can see her sitting down. That little girl's the one in her lap. That's the one we did the jiggers on, but this is her house. So we thought she had 8 kids, but she actually has 9. The husband left her, and so when we were looking for people to do jiggers missions on, we found her. And so when we found her, she's diabetic. She's very lethargic, tired. She just looks very worn out because she doesn't have proper food. So Albert and Yvonne are giving $30 every month to have her get food. So we take her food twice a week, $15 each time, and it feeds their family. And so when we got back this time, she looked better. There's still a lot more we want to do with her. Go ahead and go to the next one. So this is her kids. They're on the left. That box on the bottom is the food. And so while I was there, all their shoes were in really bad shape. So we bought them tennis shoes and a pair of slides so that they could have 2 pairs. It costs $120 to give 10 people shoes. So really, really cool. This is where they live. So if you go inside that door right there, where that girl's standing with her arm across, you go to the left, that's their room. They don't have bedding. They only have blankets. And so they sleep on the ground, and that's why they get the jiggers. So what we can do for her next, go to the next one, is this is her home that she has right now. The roof is just really bad. It's got holes everywhere, and every time it rains, water gets in there. And so that whole, if you look on the left picture, that whole thing's gonna come off, and then we're gonna build her a house with 4 rooms and a living room. So each kid, we're gonna put some bunk beds in each room. So we'll put 4 kids in each room, or however they wanna lay it out. And they'll have room for all of the family. They'll be off the ground. They'll be in beds. And then we'll get them all the bedding that they need. And then they'll have like a little room. And then that house that's on the right-hand side with the door, she'll be able to keep that one. She'll be able to cook in there, and she'll have her own house. The problem that we ran into is we can't go in when we do these things. One thing when we went in, we started handing out clothes and shoes to everybody, and then everybody from the village comes. And it got pretty crazy at one point because there was about 40 people trying to squeeze their way in to get something. And so I was telling my mom, like, we got to leave now because they get upset. They're like, what about us? How come we're not getting anything? How come you're giving her stuff when we're hungry? And so I tried to explain to them, if I had all the money in the world, I would feed every one of you, but we only have so much to give and so much we can do, and so this is, maybe you can be next. So, but as you can see, the house is in really bad shape, and the two doors on the left, that's where the boys stay. So there's 5 boys and 4 girls. Next. This is another outreach ministry we do. This is the Kakima refugee camp. There's 280,000 people that are there. My dad built a church there. And so these are, the church is on the right-hand side, the right picture. You can see it. It's just metal sheeting, got metal roof. It's like an oven in there. But these are some of the kids that were in the church. And then this is the property of the pastor. All of his daughters stay in that house on the left. And basically it's a metal roof with plastic sides. And I think about 8 of them. There's 22 people that live in this little facility that are all his family that came from Congo. And they only live in 3 houses. Next. This is the church. Really nice church that they built. But you're so far out in the desert that there's camels. This was one of the hottest places I've ever been to. This is one of the hardest places I've ever been to. You can see there's no green. It hasn't rained in over a year. But these are some of the things that we try to do. These really work on you. They really make you figure out what kind of a person you are. And they're really good because you go out and you can really feel like you're doing something, and it's very hard on you, it's very hard on your body, it's very hard on your Americanism, and it really matures you to be a better human being. And so all these things are available for anybody who ever wants to go. But these are just some of the things we do. Next. This is an outreach ministry to Pokot. Next. Just again, these were herdsmen. These guys are tough people, man. You want to meet some tough, weathered, hard people. These guys live in the middle of nowhere, and they are just really strong people. And they can go through so many things, and it really makes you self-check, like what kind of person you are. It's very good for you. Next. So this is just outreach to the Pokot people. Okay, next. And so what our future goals are to increase ministry in and outside of Kipsina. So one of the things that happened when my dad passed was that we stopped going out. He told my mom before he passed, if anything happened to him, we just take care of the boys and the farm. Well, we've gotten to the point where we're able to take care of them. And so now we want to start going outside and doing outreach and more stuff to Kakuma, Lodwar, Mosul, all the surrounding areas that are outside of Kipsina, Pokot. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do. Next is double or triple the feeding program to the widows. Go back. Double or triple the feeding program to the widows and orphans. That is to increase that. It's $600, roughly $600 every single time we feed the group. And so if we do it every 6 weeks, it's $600 every 6 weeks. We'd like to go every 4 if we can, but that requires more finances to be able to do that. Increase medical missions to the surrounding villages, be able to do more jiggers work. One of the things that we found out when we were at Monica's house was most of the people there are HIV positive. But how do you even get into helping those people? What kind of programs would you have to have? How would you take them all to the doctor? Like there's so many needs that are there. One thing that's so great about America is there's so many social programs that help people like this. They don't have anything. The government just doesn't care about them. So it's people from the outside that actually do something. But that's a whole nother thing to even try to get into, and a whole nother set of finances. Just a huge undertaking to even try to do something like that. Increased building of widows' homes. We do roughly around 6 per year. We try to do 1 every 2 months. With finalizing most of the projects we have, we want to do that more. It's with costs of materials going up because of inflation. It used to be about $600 to build a widow's house. Now it's about $800 to $900. The one we're doing for Monica is not a normal house because she has so many kids. Normally we do them just for widows. But because Monica has so many kids, it's almost a $1,500 house. So we were able to raise money when we were in Colorado for that house, so now we're starting that project for her. But we'd like to do more widows' homes. We'd like to do 12 a year, 15 a year, 20 a year, whatever we have finances for. And then establish a better program to empower the boys. One thing that was really evident the last time we was there is we were struggling with the boys. The first group of boys graduated, which you saw in that very beginning picture, they all didn't do well when they got out. And so we were kind of trying to figure out, like, how do we empower the boys? How do we help them? And that was one of the questions I asked when we were there is, how do we help you? Not just come here and give you money. That doesn't do anything for you. That just feeds you while we're here or gives you something while we're here. How do we truly and help you and change your life for the better? And so the first boys that came out, they didn't do well. And so what was really cool when we went back this time was the boys are actually becoming like really good young men. They're becoming like, they protect my mom. They like watch over her. They walk her down the streets when they're in the town of Katali. They just protect her. They're becoming very thankful. They're just really starting to turn into really young, good men that are now starting to help the organization. And one of the really cool things that I felt, which I haven't really felt before, I don't know if anybody else has felt it when they got there, but when we got there, it was like a whole nother family. It was literally like you had one family at home and then you go over there and this is a whole nother family that you're a part of. Like there's young boys and everyone's just really happy. It's like they don't feel like we're going to leave them and leave them dry and hanging out. It's like they know we're coming back every year. One of the things that we had to get over was my dad passing and them thinking that the things were going to end because that's what they heard. They heard that we were no longer coming back, that once they called my dad the general. Once the general passed, MFO is now dead. And so that took us a couple of years to get over. And so now when you go there, it's like it's a whole nother family. And when you go there, they just appreciate you so much and they talk now and they hang out. It's not like everyone's just in their own little world. And so that was really nice to see is just how much the boys had grown and matured and how the next generation is actually coming and helping. So we have one boy that just went to university. He just got accepted into the university. We still have to pay for his tuition, but it's not a huge amount it's like $800 a semester. And so his name is Samson. Really proud of Samson. First university kid and all the boys that we've had. Morgan is a boy that's our IT kid. He does all the IT work for MFO, and he's actually in leadership meetings. They just sent him to Mombasa on the coast to have him become a leader. And so you're seeing these boys mature, and actually the empowerment part of what we talked about in the beginning is happening. And the boys are really becoming like young, good men. And so we're really looking forward to the future of the younger boys, that when they come up, they can see the older boys, that they've become successful, and then they have hope that they can be successful. We actually might have the first kid with an actual job, that when he goes to school, goes to trade school, he comes out and he actually has a job. He's now doing an attachment, which is just basically part of your schooling. You go to a place and you work. It's at the tea farm. And he was told that if your family is a member of the tea farm, which we are, Missions for Orphans sells tea, you get first pick at a job. And so because we're a part of that, he now has the ability to actually get a job, which would be the first boy to actually have a job after he's graduated and be able to take care of himself. So the fruit of everything that we've done, every donation, all that you've donated is really starting to come to fruition, and you're seeing the fruit. And again, it's like a whole family when you're there. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who donates and everyone who gives to this and anyone who wants to be a part of it. And again, we do have a wonderful house there. One of the things that we discovered when we go is it's very hard for people to want to come back because it's really hard. So we have power, We have hot showers. We cook every night, or we go to good restaurants where you get wonderful Indian food, Chinese food, which is crazy. But we get bottled water. They have grocery stores now where you can you can even get Skittles there. So I don't know if anybody likes Skittles, but you can get Skittles there. They're not the same as here. They're like African Skittles, but they are good. You can't find a Cheeto anywhere. So if you want Cheetos, you got to bring them yourself. But they do have, and it's really nice when you get there. And what's nice is you can go to the home, do all the things, feel crazy emotional about everything you're seeing, and then you have a place to go back to kind of decompress and fellowship with other people, and then you get enough energy to go back and do it again. Before, all we did was travel, and it was very hard on people, and then a lot of people didn't want to come back. So what our parents have established is really cool. It's really fun, and I really, really hope that some of you can go at some point and just really get to see everything that's happening there. It's just really, really cool. And what's so good about it is when I was there at the very end, I met this guy who, older man, we were trying to get our pastors into a school to be taught. So we were asking around, where can we send these guys to seminary school so that they can become better pastors? They told us about this one school, it's called MKTI. And so as I was leaving, my plane was delayed. And there was an older man sitting there, and he asked me, he said, hello, and he said, hey, what are you doing here? I've seen you in town. And so I began to tell him our program. And with my plane being delayed, we sat and talked for over an hour and a half, and that's the guy that runs the school. And he has all these things set in place for us that we need. He has a CPA. He's got all these different people that he's willing to give us to use to now organize the program as it should. But one of the things that truly hit me when we were there is everybody that goes is older. Most of the guys that I took are in their 70s. My mom's in her 70s. And so we're going to the refugee camp, and we're going to go in, and there's this young kid, these two young kids and an older man, and they're looking at all of us, and I got pulled in because of my white beard. I got pulled into a 70-year-old group. And so I'm sitting there, and the guy goes, what, no mentorship? And it really hit me that we don't have anybody that's young. It's older guys that are going, older women that are going. And there's nothing wrong with that, but at some point, they're not going to be able to go. And so what do we do about bringing in younger people? What do we do about getting, and what I realized is that missionary mentality comes from a different group of men and women. It was my family, my parents. It was my dad's friends. And so it's very hard when you're there, you don't see any young missionaries. You see all older missionaries because at that time, in that group of people coming out of the Jesus movement and coming out of that time where Christianity was full throttle, these men wanted to be missionaries. They wanted to go across the world, preach the gospel to people who have never heard it. And so one thing that hit me is there's not young people doing this. That hunger, that drive to go to places unknown, to save a soul who's never heard the gospel. It's not that it's dying. It's that it's getting less and less. And I need to do some recruiting. And the men that are there that go with us, they need to do some recruiting. And we need to find some younger men that have a desire and younger women that have a desire to go and to do a work somewhere beyond their world or beyond their country, I can't say world, beyond their family and do something for God. And so if any of you are interested, we'd really love to take you and have you be a part of this. And it's really, like I said, it's a wonderful thing that you get to have and be a part of. And so I want to thank everybody, if anybody's watching, the work that you do into making this happen, because this is something so substantial and so huge. When I was there, it really, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I'm driving, we're getting stopped by all kinds of people. We had to have police escorts because they said there was crime, which I think it was just school fee season, and they wanted money, and so they just extorted us. But one thing is I'm driving through, and I'm in a world that I don't know. I'm in a place that I don't have my rights, and anything could happen to me. And it just hit me how much I need God. Because I can't control all those things. So I need to rely and trust that God can control those things. And it really put a hunger in me to seek that even when I'm here. What happens with, and I don't know if you can agree with me, as Americans, what happens to us is we have such a good country that we don't rely on God enough. Our relationship with God isn't as good as it could be if you were lost in the middle of nowhere and God is all you had. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I need you. I need you to protect me. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I need you now, God. Then you come back here, and how come that changes? Because you have a police force, and you have rights, and you have all these things that get you comfortable, when really we've lost that drive to really need God, for Him to do a work in our lives and do greater things than we think possible. And that was one of the things I learned on this trip. Again, these trips are more than just going and helping people. These are trips that encourage you and push you to a maturity with Christ and push you to a maturity with God and really pull something out of you that you didn't think you had. And so again, if any of you would love to go, we'd love to have you. And we'd love to have you there and be a part. If you want to donate, you can donate. Next page. I should have left this there up the whole time. When I went to Colorado, I didn't even put this in there. I wasn't expecting to ask for money. But these are the things that you can do to donate. Again, we want to do a great work over there. And we want to do a great work here too. That's one of the things that we've tried to do both, is how do we do a great work here in Phoenix and how do we do a great work there in Kenya. And so I just wanted to let you guys know really what we do. I know we talk about it a lot, but people really don't know what we do. But this is all that our parents established. And it's really a wonderful work. And so that's all I have for today. I don't think I can preach. It's too long. But just want to pray, God, we thank you for all that you do for us. And we thank you for the graciousness of the gospel, that we can go into all the world and preach, Father, your name and how good you are and how great your story is. Father, you are exactly what men and women need. We don't need anything else but to know you and to know of God and to know of his power and his authority in this world and his authority and power in our own lives to overcome sin, to overcome sickness and death, Father. You give us that power and you give us that ability. And we thank you, God, for encouraging us to do these types of things, to go places for you, and how you help us and grow us and minister to us, God. We just thank you for all that you do. And we just ask that you bless these people, bless the church, God, bless anyone watching. Just minister to their lives. In Jesus' name, amen.